Hello, warriors. Welcome to the You Movement. I am B, and I am out grounding some energy in some sunshine. It is great. I wanted to hop on today to talk a little bit more about my own personal journey and the discoveries that I'm finding within, and what happens after Dark Night of the Soul, as that's kind of where I'm at in my own spiritual journey. And to get to where I am, I thought I'd just go back in time a little bit. It was funny because Facebook did one of those memories. This was you 2 years ago. And it was a shot of me in my Bliss Phase when I was playing around with lots of makeup, and I had just started off on a new adventure, doing improv, and life was good. Life was good. And it's interesting because when I started down this path, 4 years ago, the mission was lose weight and cure the diabetes. And I had no idea where this was taking me. Weight loss should come with like a notice that when you lose weight, if you're not just losing weight and changing your dress size, it infiltrates everything. It changes everything on your cellular level, on your emotional level, on your mental level. Everything becomes altered, because weight isn't just weight. It's holding a lot of stuff locked within it. And 2 years ago, the majority of the weight was off, and for the first time in my life, I was feeling attractive and really trying to figure out who I was in that new body. I would play around with different looks, and even my first original videos, you can see some of them are me with different hair colors and different makeup, and it was a real expansive stage. That's why they call it the Bliss Phase, I suppose. Although at the time I didn't know I was in the Bliss Phase. I was hoping, yay, I'd made it, and this was what life was going to be like. And unfortunately, in a spiritual awakening, the Bliss Phase is like a snapshot or an appetizer, a tester to what life could be like. But it doesn't stay like that. It goes into a lot of loss and a lot of healing when you move from the Bliss Phase into Dark Night of the Soul. As I said, when you lose the weight, you're losing, and all the stuff that's trapped in the weight begins to surface and come out, and that's much more involved with the Dark Night of the Soul. So while the Bliss Phase was an expansive phase, the Dark Night of the Soul was a going back within, really into a small place within self, of looking at all the traumas that surfaced, all the repressed memories that came to light, quitting more and more coping mechanisms, one after another as they no longer resonated, losing friends and connections that meant a lot to me, family members. A lot of loss is part of the journey, and that triggered for me because of my upbringing and my adoption and the abuse that I had as a child. That caused a lot of PTSD symptoms and complex post-traumatic stress disorder symptoms. So my Dark Night of the Soul was fraught with difficulties. I had multiple spiritual emergencies or crises. I was experiencing a lot of grief. And grief is a difficult emotion because it comes in waves. And it has so many different flavors to it as well. And just when you think you might be out of it, it comes back again and keeps hitting you. And then there was a lot of anxiety that I went through my Dark Night of the Soul, because the shifts and the changes were happening so dramatically and so quickly. I could barely keep up with it. And the memories that were surfacing were very, very traumatic and difficult for me to wrap my head around. So that's kind of brings us up to where we are now, which is, like many people on this healing journey, you're unprepared for what lies ahead. And so I want to kind of prepare you a little bit for what may lie ahead when you start down this path of healing, or if you're already down this path of healing, see what is further ahead for you potentially, as well as address a few myths about healing, because there's this notion. And even, my egoic mind would like to believe that this notion is true, that there's a place that you reach called healed. It's like the land of Oz, because there is no healed. Healed is your death certificate when you're finished and you graduate from life school and you get to ascend. But we're always in a state of healing, so there is no place of made it, even though I suppose by Instagram standards, made it is doing a really nice shiny video and saying, hey, I'm here, look at me, I'm healed. Instead of understanding that healing is a verb, it's a continual process of discovering new aspects of self and getting deeper levels of awareness, and each time peeling that onion further and further and further and further and further. That, to the ego mind, is a very frustrating notion, because you would like to think that eventually you're going to get there. I know I would like to get there. And what does there look like? Well, for me, I have some qualifiers that say, yeah, that's what healed is going to look like for me. And I'm not fully there yet, but I get glimpses of it now and again. So that's the first thing that I've noticed about exiting Dark Night of the Soul, is you go like yo-yoing, and you'll have some days of, wow, yeah, I'm feeling good again. I'm back to feeling like I've got a sense of humor, and oh yes, I'm feeling alive. And then, boom, you're back into that dark energy. It's not as dark, mind you, but it's a struggle energy that you're like, oh no, and you're purging again, and you're crying again, and you're releasing more, and you're dealing with more, and more anxiety is coming. So it's very seesaw energy that I'm currently sitting in, and some days are super good, and then other days are not. Even within a day, it can be some moments are feeling great, and then some moments are not feeling very good at all. And that seesaw energy is difficult to stabilize, because when you've gone through Dark Night of the Soul, your nervous system, mine with everything that I've been through, is not regulated by no means, and that takes time. Go read up on polyvagal theory if you're interested in understanding how the nervous system works, because it's a trap that, and I read a lot about it, so I knew there was a pitfall in front of me of feeling super good and then pushing too much and thinking, oh, I've made it, I'm here, yay, and then sinking back down again. So always remember, and I try to remind myself, that healing is much more up, down, up, down, up, down. There's a lot of fluctuations. It can feel very bipolar at times. Now, because I have the understanding of what's going on spiritually, I know I'm not bipolar, but man, this type of back and forth energy, it is very difficult to stabilize. And so one of the things I'm doing with that is observing, being in the observer as much as I can, as well as trying my very darndest to be gentle with myself. And I'm not always very gentle with myself. I'm the first to be gentle with other people, but when it comes to myself, it's like, you should be here, you should be here, you should be here, and you should be stabilized. And so learn from some of my mistakes, I suppose, that stabilization, it takes time. It reminds me of being in a canoe a little bit. I used to spend time in a canoe when I was young, and for it to like right itself once you've hit a wave, it takes time. You're gonna go like this, you're gonna rock a good bit before it starts to slow itself down and steady, and each rock gets a little bit more gentle and a little bit more gentle until finally you're like, okay. So I'm not finally at that place. I'm having yeah, it's more like that right now. So that's one myth, two myths. One, there's a made it, and two, that healing is a nice, slow, gradual climb. It is fluctuating and it takes time. Also, a third myth about healing, I suppose, is that you can just suddenly get to where you want to get and not have flashbacks or not have returning emotions that you're like, I thought I dealt with this already. Primarily grief is one that comes back and bites you on your butt when you long down the road and you're like, oh, why is this coming up again? And it's coming up again because I look at healing a lot, or the spiritual awakening path a lot, like being a ketchup sachet getting squeezed. And this is like that last final, like, oh, maybe I can get just a little bit more out. So there's a lot of squeezes that happen in and returning of old stuff again. And it can be quite frustrating, but it can also be that final push, that final cleanse, that final bit that needs to be released before you can let go of it. So all of the things that have been happening to me recently are triggering memories from 2 years ago, one after another, and I was like, why is all this stuff coming back again? It's coming back up again for that final squeeze, that final let go, that final release, the final surrender to the life that I was, so that I can be born into the life that's moving forward. Another thing about the healing path, when you get out of the dark night of the soul, is there's still a lot of fear present, because fear of change doesn't leave. And even though good changes might be happening, and you think to yourself, oh, well, I should be feeling good about these good changes, these good things that are coming into me. The fact is, if you're not used to receiving good things, like maybe you start dating a really nice partner and they're treating you nicer than you've ever been treated before, that can be highly triggering too, because you're not used to being treated like that. So you're waiting with those knee-jerk reactions. You're waiting for the responses to deal with things the way that they've always been dealt with before, whether it be communicating your emotions, you're holding back because you don't want to upset or rock the boat, and then you're like, wait a second, I'm safe in this situation to do that. Or in my case, I'm joining some new groups and I'm getting out into the community much more. That's a whole new thing for me as well, because I'm like, oh, wait, what's going to happen next? And you tend to still be in that fearful energy, a little bit of anxiety. And when things go not off, you're like, wait, what? Huh? It's different now. So timeline jumping presents its own new challenges to deal with, because you're simply not used to having reciprocal energy. You're not used to having a calm environment. You're not used to being what it's like to be in some place that's safe for you. So when you start to receive good things, be prepared that your reactions may be a little bit confused. And we would like to think, well, once I make it, everything's going to be great. But once you make certain things and you do reach some of those markers, you're like, okay, I don't know how to respond, because this has never happened to me before. I've never felt these experiences before. And it doesn't matter what new is coming into your life. Understand that new, even if it looks good, it may feel a little bit wobbly until you steady yourself. So I think I'm going to leave it there, because it's getting crazy noisy out here, and I think that's enough said. If you have any questions about that grounding phase that I now find myself in the awakening path, or any of the phases if you're in, or any particular emotions that you're struggling with, please feel free to drop a comment, ask me anything. I can put it in the Ask Me Anything video about twin flames, about Kundalini, about spiritual awakening, about narcissistic abuse, about trauma, about whatever. You name it, ask me. Don't ask me any baking questions because I can't answer those. With that said, I want to wish everybody a super awesome day. I hope you get out and enjoy some of the good and stabilize through some of the shadowy stuff, because ultimately there's no bypassing on this journey. Anybody that does try to bypass will find themselves eventually in the dark places anyways, because we all have to ascend, and you can't ascend while carrying the baggage of the heavier, denser energies within you. So it's release, 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 surrender, surrender, and surrender some more. And if you need help on your journey, please feel free to book a Zoom one-on-one with me, or an oracle read. We can have some fun that way and do it on camera. I've been enjoying that a lot lately. Or a distance healing, feel free to reach out. The way to do that is in the description below, and the donation button, because all my services are by donation, is also in the description below. And thank you for all the likes, the shares, and we're getting so close to that first goal that I have of 1,000 subscribers, and I'm super excited about that one. So that said, peace out.